Before I begin, just a couple of quick things. One, I know this review is literally no longer relevant, but I saw it on my phone, I just thought, right, I need to get this out because I really like this review, I really like this game, and I'd rather have it on my channel than not. And second of all, I never played the original Resident Evil games. I know. In fact, my first one was 5. And for me at the time, I found it terrifying. But, of course, I grew to realise just how much of a departure 5 was, as it more doubled down on ideas first sort of brought into it on Resident Evil 4. With its increased focus on action set pieces rather than tension and item conservation, it was certainly less scary than fans had come to expect. This led to RE6, which again, I thought was great fun. Not scary, but a fun game. Like with 5, I grew to understand just how far the series had fallen, and how much of a meme they had now become. Capcom got their heads down and went back to the drawing board. A VR experience called Kitchen would turn out to be a teaser for Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, revealed to be fully first person, playable in VR, and a return to horror. The game was very Texas Chainsaw Massacre and garnered good reviews for its return to its roots and execution of mechanics. Resident Evil was no longer a joke, instead anticipation about what would come next. And what's next was Resident Evil 2 Remake, a from the ground up recreation of the PS1 classic in a new engine. So let's go in blind and see what Resident Evil 2 has to offer. Resident Evil 2 has 2 campaigns that follow 2 separate characters. I'm going to avoid story spoilers from here on out and most gameplay you're going to see is from the beginning of the game, because going in fresh-faced makes it all the more enjoyable. First person you can play as is Leon Kennedy in his first appearance chronologically, I believe. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. And the other character is Claire Redfield, sister of Chris Fuck Boulders Redfield. There's no co-op like in previous installments, however, this one is a solo experience, but it benefits from it greatly. Right from the first moment you take control of Leon or Claire, you're just surrounded by this sense of unease and vulnerability. Horror games of late have drifted towards the mechanic of run and hide rather than fight, and for me it gave off a very sense of repetition, and the scares wore off quick in games like Outlast and Alien Isolation, because if you got caught, it was game over, so you had to restart. Horror doesn't maintain its effect when mechanics become tedious and it becomes trial and error. RE2 then for me is a marvel. The ability to fight back only heightens the tension. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Item management and preservation is key to a good run through, to the point where it's possible to balls up one completely, so saving on your first try is a must as you go. I can't express enough how much guilt I felt after killing 2 zombies, who left me with nearly no ammo after holding onto it for so long. You don't know if you'll need it now or later. These minute-to-minute decisions really help engross you in its story and mechanics. RE2 follows a simple loop of explore an area. In that area is an item which leads you to another area. In that new area is an item to unlock a door in a previous area, and so on. It's simple yet effective, and it's a good way of using its fully realised environment. Doors open at the player's movement, meaning for seamless traversal, minimal loading screens through the environments. But so too can zombies and other creatures, meaning if you don't get far enough away, you're not truly safe. All of this is complemented by a stunningly realised police station and later areas. There are puzzles throughout, often having no answer until a certain item is discovered, like a note that details a safe's location and its combination. I was surprised how much I wanted to get done before moving forward, and opening a safe or a locked cupboard felt like such a small victory every time, that you didn't really notice or care that you were backtracking this much. The detail and layout has all been carefully constructed. Imagine a Dark Souls or Bloodborne type environment if it helps. You move around, you later find a shortcut so you don't have to run the full length to get back to where you want to go. It's complemented by excellent and a fair map screen. This shows the layout once you've discovered a new area, and this will show you any items found but couldn't pick up, and also highlights a room in red if there is still something in that room to be discovered, be it a red herb or a key item. Once you've cleared a room, it turns blue. This helps reduce any needless running around trying to remember where everything is. It's a fair inclusion and doesn't feel cheap. Knowing the map is key, especially at the station. Making sure you've cleared certain hallways and know the quickest ways possible back to places becomes so important later on. There's no room for complacency at any moment against the enemies you'll face. Obviously, there's the traditional zombies, taken into his stride with odd comfort by Leon, but these are no zombies many gamers will be used to. 5 to 6 headshots sometimes don't take them down, and even then, they may not be dead. Bodies, little hallways and rooms, and you get a very Dead Space-esque feeling of, is that actually dead? And more often than not, it isn't. And you've just used a bullet to wake it up, and now you need to use more to kill it. Put it back down, 5 minutes later, that clear corridor you did earlier is now ringing with the moans of the same zombie. It got back up. If you don't get a lucky headburst, then you'll burn through ammo quicker than you collect it if you're wasteful, making you feel even worse. Sometimes running completely is your best approach. There is also the lickers, not as sexual as it sounds, introduced much quicker than I expected. In RE5, they were near the end, I believe in like chapter 4, as a big reveal, and they were terrifying. They're much worse here, revealed in game early on, and that's it. There's no fanfare, no big cutscene like here's this creature, it's boom, there it is in game, and it's practically unkillable, have fun. They act as area patrols in a fashion. Often one corridor or certain section of the map will have one crawling about. There aren't loads of them, which is good, but what is here is terrifying. Any noise and they get alerted so you can walk right past or under one, so long as you do so slowly. One of my gaming highlights of the year so far was one crawled out from a corner to my surprise, and if I had shot or moved quickly it was game over. I just stood still, waited for it to move, and just stared at it, and then it started to walk towards me like it knew I was there. So I had to back up slowly and quietly. I couldn't turn around because I didn't have enough time to make my way to a door that I just passed while walking backwards. It was just brilliant tension and a result of care and just brilliant game design and letting the game breathe, letting its systems do what it needs to do. They can be lured into new areas if you make noise, but be aware they will stay in that new area. So many times I ran towards an area and was attacked as they were just on the wall or hiding in the corner. I either forgot they were there, or they moved themselves as I had progressed a bit more so the game placed them in a new area. Either way, it was great. If a zombie is in your way and a lurker is there in the same time, it's such a bad situation and you'll be swearing out loud. And then there's the big bad. Not including boss fights, after a certain point in the story, a creature is let loose, with the sole purpose to kill Leon or Claire. I won't say what it is, but it's so nerve-wracking. Similar to the AI of Alien Isolation. The creature moves around, and using the sound of its footsteps and knowledge of the map you've built up, you can pretty much 99% of the time work out where it is and go around the map accordingly. Running too much, shooting, however, will alert it, music will kick in and it will power towards you from wherever it is. But whereas Isolation lost its spark sometimes because of how random and unfair it felt, like I said earlier, you can fight back. You can't kill it, but you can stun it to give you a chance to get very far away. It never feels cheap, like, oh, how did you find me? If it did, it's because of your own actions. It helps that the sound design and music is terrific. Zombie moans, licker shrieks, the footsteps, it's all masterfully done. Add in the fact that most sections are only lit by your torch as well, it just hammers home how much care has been put into this. Technically speaking, the game runs and looks great. No major glitches or frame drops of note, cutscenes are solid. Graphically, the game looks amazing. Easily one of the best on console, without question. Facial animations in particular are really nuanced and fantastically realised. The writing at times is still cheesy and a bit blunt. Leon doesn't really seem to care that the world is ending around him much, but it is what it is. In terms of replayability, if that's something that concerns you, it's really about personal preference. As it's meant to be done, there's 4 campaigns, A and B sides for both characters. But once you've done one side, it's bound to be slightly shorter. You can do speedruns, go for collectibles, trophy hunting, etc. It's a single player game, so what you get out of it outside of what's to offer is at your own discretion. A remake that looks and plays like a brand new game. Excellent mechanics, stunning visuals, clever AI and enemy design. Resident Evil 2 is a game on its own and is sure an early contender for Game of the Year. After RE6, many questioned this franchise, but after 7 and now this, Capcom has shown that the zombie genre is anything but dead. Resident Evil 2 gets a 9 out of 10. The gameplay used was all early gameplay in this one, guys. If you do want to see a bit more of the game as it progresses, there is a couple of play-by-plays on my channel, so feel free to check those out. Thank you very much for watching this very late review.